I got a really cool video of it. And then the parents, the mom, when they went to the game in February, sent me pictures of Prince with him at the game, giving him a big hug. And the more awesome news is on the way to the game, the doctor called and said, Prince, I'm so excited that you're going to the game, but I also have some great news for you. You're cancer-free.
Holy smokes.
So is that not a feel-good story?
That's a great story.
We are back with episode number 90 of the Sarasota SpeaX podcast. My name is Brad Hannon.
I'm Trey Martell.
And we've got a great guest supporting a great cause today. We've got Executive Director, had to get the title right, Executive Director Ben Shroyer from Casting for Kids. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me.
So Casting for Kids, I'll be honest with you, when I first heard the name, I was thinking like casting, like acting, and like you were casting them in roles. Upon further research, I find out that it's fishing, which I'm more familiar with fishing than acting. So I was very pleased. But also, it's an amazing cause with a great story behind it. And why don't you tell us? Why don't we just jump into the event that you have, Casting for Kids, obviously supporting childhood cancer through fishing and things like that. But why don't you tell us kind of the heart behind it and what you've got coming up?
Okay. Yeah. Great. So when my daughter was going through treatments, at the age of 2, she battled stage 4 high-risk neuroblastoma, and it's something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It's a really tough time for the family and everybody involved.
Especially at 2 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. When the doctor says your child has cancer, that's 4 words a parent should never have to hear. Let alone the doctor say it's stage 4 high risk. At that moment I was like, we're going to probably lose our baby girl. That's not a thought that any parent should have to go through their head. But it got a little worse for me when, she had some complications. She ended up on the ICU floor a few times. And one day I was sitting up on the ICU floor, and this little girl down the hall was screaming for mom and dad. And I couldn't imagine why mom and dad wouldn't be there. So I asked the nurse, so I was worried she may not have a mom and dad, and maybe somebody could go down and sit with her.
And this is like a girl next door, like down the hall.
Yeah, 2 or 3 doors down,
at.
I think. But she was screaming. She's clearly screaming for mommy and daddy. And I asked the nurse, I said, where's her mom and dad? And the nurse said, they have to work. And they, people have to keep living. I mean, just because your kid's sick, the world doesn't stop. I looked at my wife and I said, I don't care if we lose everything we got. One of us will always be with our daughter. Like I never want to have to hear my daughter. It crushes me to hear her do that.
Yeah.
Not let alone thinking that could be my daughter. And my wife agreed. So once we got through our journey, we were still going through it pretty good. I met Matt Raven at Alpine Steakhouse. I don't know if you guys know or familiar with him. It's a very good place to eat.
It's a staple in town, of course. Yeah, they've been on the Food Network, right?
Yeah. So Matt and Heather had a son, Logan Rebhan, who was battling infant ALL around the same time that our daughter has. And we actually met on the cancer floor. And, we get speaking with each other, and we find out that we live not even like a mile away from each other in Sarasota. So we kind of just, formed a bond. And all childhood cancer families, they do that. They can relate with one another. They form this bond. So I was like, man, I was on the ICU floor the other day, and this little girl was screaming for mom and dad. Like, that's not all right. And I was like, we should try to do something about it. And so we did. We started. I originally started. Logan was really going through some trials and different. He was going back and forth to CHOP in Philadelphia. So Matt really couldn't be involved. And what we started with was brewing up awareness.
Right.
My friend Seth at Big Top Brewing Company wanted to help us in any way he could. So he's like, let's brew a beer. And he brewed a beer called the Hannah Banana, which is a banana wheat beer. It's actually a really good beer. And we threw a fundraiser. And we actually raised money that year and donated that portion of it to Johns Hopkins All Children so they could use it with child life and anything that could better the kids. Mm-hmm. We did that for 2 years, and then the pandemic happened. And we decided, brewing up awareness can't happen anymore. So how are we going to socially distance ourselves and still be able to help raise money for John Hopkins. We had spoke with Dick Vitale, the Dick EV Foundation. I actually spoke to Dick Vitale, who said, you guys are doing amazing things, but when you try to help hospitals and research, it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Especially, he raises, $40-50 million a year for research, and it's still a drop in the bucket.
Right.
So we figured out maybe, our better bet is to help families, which has made a huge impact.
Which kind of was the original,
original
pain point for you that you felt.
Through it in the first place with the little girl on the floor. So, it's just been so rewarding, and where we've brought it from there to now, from our first tournament to this last tournament. This last one hurt us a little bit. The hurricanes didn't help.
Yeah.
But our second to last one, we raised like $170,000.
Wow.
And last year alone, we helped 227 families at over $175,000.
Can you go into the description of what the tournament's like, how it's set up, and how you raise the money?
So we have two different tournaments. We have one kids freshwater one only, and then we have a inshore saltwater one. And they're slams with Calcuttas. So even
to someone that doesn't know much about fit. Okay.
I understand. Here we go.
A Calcutta is not a fishing thing, by the way. It's just like almost like a bedding thing in a lot of ways. But he'll explain.
Yeah. So for example, on our saltwater inshore one, your slam consists of redfish, snook, and trout. So it's your total size between all three of them combined. So if you catch a 20-inch trout, 20-inch redfish, 20-inch snook, you have 60
inches.
There you go.
All right.
So, but if you catch, so that's that. Then you have the Calcuttas. You have redfish, snook, and trout, Calcutta. If you could catch a 40-inch redfish, but not catch any snook,
trout, right.
and lose the slam, but win the Calcutta because you put money on that you'll win that. You're going to catch the biggest redfish. So each of them have different payout levels. The slam, of course, is the largest payout. Last year it was $2,500 payout.
Wow.
And then the Calcuttas are separate below that. I think there's $750, $500.
And it kind of depends on how much betting there is on you having the biggest fish.
Correct. Yeah. And then we have the trash can slam, which is whoever can catch the nastiest fish.
The biggest catfish.
A guy called one night, and it was like midnight, and he's like, I caught a duck. He goes, does that count as a trash fish? And I was like, it's not a fish. Throw it back.
Wrong species.
So that's how that works. And same with the freshwater for the kids. We have the slam, which is bass and bluegill, largest combined. And then we have bass Calcutta and bluegill Calcutta.
Well, sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you want to put the money towards helping the families. What kind of specifics can you help the families with during the trying times?
So a lot of it, people really need help with rent and mortgage, which comes at a really expensive rate, especially with mortgage rates and stuff like that. Now, and rent is so we've helped families up to $5,000-6,000 at times, especially ones that, we had one family that they got told that there was no more options, and that they just, and it was right before the holidays. It was like October-ish, I think, and they was like, there's no more options, pretty much probably 60 days left. He might not even make it to Christmas. So just take him home, make him comfortable, and enjoy the memories that you can have. And the social worker called and said, I don't know if there's anything you can do, but mom and dad can't afford not to go to work, but they really need to spend a lot of time they can with their son. And I was like, that's a pretty tall order. You're asking like $6,000 if I cover their rent and their utilities and give them grocery money.
Right.
That's not something I can decide on my own. I got to go to the board about it. I went to the board and we discussed it, and every single one of them said, do it. I want somebody to do that for me if it's my kid.
Yeah.
So we helped that family. So, and we have all kinds of different cool stories like that we've been able to help people catch back up. Unfortunately, a lot of times parents are proud, we were, we didn't want to ask for money or ask people for help and stuff. So they fall behind. And they don't ask for help until they really need help because they're getting ready to lose their car. Mm-hmm. We actually...
Or worse, their place to live.
Absolutely. And that brings me to... I was literally on the stage at our big fishing tournament, and my phone just kept ringing and ringing and ringing, and I was trying to talk to the crowd and stuff. So I finally handed it off to Matt Rabin, And I stepped off the stage and I looked down and it was a social worker calling me multiple times. I'm like, what is she? So I got in the parking lot and I call her and she's like, hey, we have a situation and I didn't know if there's any way Casting for the Kids could help. So, well, what's the situation? She's like, this family just got an eviction letter and said that if she's not out by the end of the night or something like that, that they were going to go to the courthouse Monday morning. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, you got a copy of the letter? And she said, yeah. So she sent it over to me. I looked at the letter. Well, it was an individual. It wasn't a property management company. So, and we've been able to do this a few times. So I called the owner. I said, do you understand the situation? I mean, do you know what they're going through? And he's like, I do know the child's sick, but like, there's only so much I can do. And I was like, I totally understand that. I totally respect that. You got to still pay your mortgage, right? So you need your rent covered. I get it. But what can I work out with you that will help this family? I got to get back to an event that I'm at right now, but don't kick him out. He's like, all right, well, what do you suggest? And I was like, I'll tell you what, I will, if she's 2 months behind, I will do you a solid. I will cover those 2 months if you will give me 2 months, and I'll give you a tax credit for those 2 months. I'll give you a tax letter. He's like, let me think about it. So he called me back and said, we'll do that. So not only did we get them back up, but we got them forward a little bit to help them while they were still at the hospital. Because it's not just going to be a problem. It's always going to be a problem. So it's going to be a problem for the next couple of months. And that's what I'm not, by any means, I'm no financial advisor.
Right.
But a lot of times I tell these families, it's like, yeah, I have no problem helping you, but what's going to happen next month?
Right. How do we make sure we work our way out of this situation?
And a lot of landlords are really cool about, hey, I'll give you a month if you gift a month. Mm-hmm. And they feel good about themselves, and they get a tax credit because, they're in business. So we do that a lot. Utilities lately has been big. We'll do it all, though. I mean, we send people on trips.
What it makes me think of is kind of, you guys raised $170,000 your last, event, which is a huge number, but that is not, $50 million. And obviously $50 million is going to require a lot more process to go to the board and to, distribute funds and to do this. So you guys are kind of nimble in the way that you can, distribute funds and kind of versatile in the way that you can help.
Yeah.
And social workers are calling you in those situations where, hey, we've got a real deadline. That's not something that maybe a larger organization can really handle in such a short amount of time, let alone the executive director getting on the phone with that owner. So, that probably is a huge credit to being a little bit smaller and more, boutique, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and the families love it because we're more hands-on. Like the family calls us, we go up, I'll take the check to the hospital, and I'll sit with the family and talk to them a little bit, and then they don't want me to leave. Because they relate, man, somebody finally gets us, somebody finally understands what we're going through. And so it's, we come close to a lot of these kids. And the unfortunate side of it is, and when the kids don't make it and you got close to the family, you're going through all over it again. That's one thing my wife is like, she loves the foundation, she loves what we do, but she's like, you don't have to tell me every day what's going on.
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to relive this every single day. And I was like, yeah, well, that's the difference between me and her. And that's a man thing, right? Like, as a dad, we see an issue and we want to fix it. Mm-hmm. And this is the only way I know how to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's to help others going through the same situation we went through.
Well, before we get too deep into all of that, I want to kind of rewind and talk specifically about the event you guys have on March 22nd. Yeah. I think it's a great opportunity to, sell the audience, if you will, on why to participate. I've got a 6-year-old boy and a 3-year-old boy myself. Would love to get them involved in, the one-day fishing tournament. Mm-hmm. And so, you don't even have to sell the audience. You just sell me on why I should sign the kids up and what to expect and what it does for the family and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So our kids' freshwater tournament's coming up here March 22nd. It's we hold it at the Covenant Life Church down on McIntosh. Mm-hmm. We got a big parking lot, a big side yard. They let us hold stuff in. They don't charge us to be there, so it's really kind of nice. We get a big tent. We usually cook up some barbecue. We got a band that comes. We have silent auction items. It's $50 for the kid to enter the tournament. That's just the slam.
Right.
And then it's $25 per Calcutta betting on that you're going to catch the biggest bass or the biggest bluegill. And then they check in. You can check in at Evie's on Friday at 3 p.m. from 3 to 5. If you check in at Evie's, you can actually start fishing right after that. If you can't check in Friday evening, you can still check in Saturday morning. I'll be out there at 7 a.m. and you can go fishing. The church actually has a big pond right there that you can actually fish at. I know some kids fished it last year.
Right.
So it's a really cool thing, though. These kids, it's so neat to see kids come together and like support other kids who are going through a really hard time.
And just to be clear, like, you don't have to have a boat. You don't have to have, like, this is any pond or any legal fishing in the county of Sarasota, right?
So the fishing starts, like I said, that night after 5. I'm going to tell the kids and the parents that the tournament does not allow for fishing after dark.
Right.
For safety reasons, alligators, stuff. I'm like, we're not responsible.
Right.
So any pictures I see of a fish after dark, I'm not counting it.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, you can go anywhere. One guy asked last year, he's like, could we drive out to Okeechobee? I'm like, I don't care.
It's anywhere in the state of Florida, actually, right?
Yeah. I mean, really, if you want to try to get out there and get back, I mean, you have to, your photos have to be in by 3, and you have to be back here at check-in at 3:30.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you fish an offshore tournament, like, you can go out 100 miles, you can go out 200 miles, but you have to make it back for weigh-ins.
You have to be back for check-in.
Right. How do you do the photos? Do you have to have a picture of today's paper with the photos at the...
So we have a token.
Okay.
And generally speaking, it's
Good
like...
question, Felipe.
No, absolutely.
Didn't even think about that.
So you get a ruler, and a lot of times we always provide the ruler.
Right.
And sometimes it's just the ruler that we provide that all we need because no kid has that ruler.
Right.
It's
like a new ruler.
Yeah. But like last year, we give the kids a swag bag. And in the swag bag, it's got shirts, sunglasses, all kinds of cool little things. And I'll pick an item in the swag bag the day when I check in and be like, the buff you have in there from Floridified, it has to be in the picture with your fish on the ruler. So that's how we timestamp it. Yeah.
Smart. I mean, listen, there's so many ways now you could do that. You could timestamp the photo.
If you want to be that guy,
it.
then be that guy.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's a charity for a great cause.
We've always said that. If that's what you have to do, then you know what?
Just make sure you pay extra.
Yeah.
What kind of lesson are you teaching your kids?
Yeah,
You're doing that, aren't you, right?
Right.
So, out of curiosity, what was the biggest bass? What was the biggest bass and bluegill last year that won
So
it?
the bluegill,
or ever really?
The bluegill last year was 1.5 inches from state record.
Whoa!
It was like 11 inches or something like that. It was a monster bluegill.
Yeah.
Now, is this kids only fishing?
Kids only.
Okay.
Yep. So and it's broken down. I'm glad you asked that. It's broken down into age groups, right? Because I don't want a 17-year-old kid going up against a 5-year-old. You know. So we have the age groups are from 5 to 13, and then from 13 to 15, and then we have a 16 to 17-year-old division. So if the kid can drive, it's the 16 to 17-year-old division.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So otherwise, the parents got to take them around, right? So yeah, we do have to break it down into age groups.
Well, what's funny is I literally remember it was probably last year around this time. It was right after the tournament. One of my good friends. We were just talking, and he said, he called me to fish in my neighborhood because I caught a big bass in my neighborhood pond, and there's good fish in there.
The legend of Brad.
But it's a gated. No, actually, all right. Technically, I didn't catch it. It was my other good friend that caught it. I watched
somebody else catch it.
My point is that there's big bass in my neighborhood. It's a gated community. And so he was like, "Hey, can we go fish over in your neighborhood?" So I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "What are you fishing for?" And he told me about the tournament, and I'm like, "Man, I want to do that next year. That sounds fun." So I've already heard good feedback before this even happened about the tournament and how fun it is for the kids. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's very little. There's very low barrier to entry, right? You need like a fishing pole, and even then, sometimes you guys are providing them, and you need to have transportation around town through your parents to take you to a pond somewhere and catch a fish potentially. Right. So it's not like you have to be on a boat. You don't have to, invest a ton of money into it. It sounds like for minimum entry, maybe $50. You don't even have to get in the Calcutta.
No,
so minimum entry of $50, you can fish in this tournament, and it goes to a good cause.
Yeah, and what's really cool, like I said, this year we're adding additional stuff to it because if we have 50 kids show up, there's going to be 3 winners for each division. So there's going to be the Slam champion, then there's going to be the Bluegill Calcutta and the Bass Calcutta champs.
Right.
So if there's 20 kids in that group, only 3 are walking away with something.
Right.
And it's cash payouts. But So this year we're just like, how do we get more kids to be interested in it, especially if they feel like they might get outfished, or kids who've never really fished before. So what we're doing this year is we're getting 10 items valued at $100 or more, and so when you check in, we give you a raffle ticket. And then at the reward ceremony, we're going to draw those 10 tickets. So even if you didn't catch a fish, you can still walk away with a decent door prize.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
that makes it fun for everybody. That way.
I'm sure the prizes helps that they're probably donated, and
Sure,
you guys can reach out to.
Yeah. They're definitely donated.
That's basically the same thing they do at golf scrambles usually, right? Because most guys going to these scrambles know they're not winning anything.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I know I'm not, right?
No, because
so that's what
cheat-
gets you to stick
because people
around
cheat
longer,
too much.
right?
Well, that gets them to come back to the event.
You come back to the
We didn't
the
catch
place,
anything.
yeah.
We're just going home. You know. So we want you to come back to the event. We want you to participate in the silent auctions that we have up there, and so yeah, that's one way to get them back to the event.
Hey, we're having a great time here getting to know Ben and all about his amazing charity, Casting for Kids, and the event they have coming up on March 22nd. If you want to get to know Ben a little bit further, stay tuned for rapid fire questions fueled by food and beer.
Hi, I'm Ben Shroyer, Executive Director of Casting for the Kids, and this is Rapid Fire.
10 random questions.
10 specific answers.
Nothing off limits.
This is rapid fire, fueled by food and beer.
Which road are you avoiding like you're clinging X? I-75, 301, or 41?
Ooh, 41.
College football or NFL?
College football for sure.
You have chosen wisely.
What's your favorite genre of music?
Country.
She's gone country. Look at them boots.
We all love grape nuts as a kid. What's your favorite cereal?
Captain Crunch.
My Cap'n Crunch cereal is a cool part of this balanced breakfast.
If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
I'll lose some weight.
It gives you the munchies. God knows I don't need that. Yeah.
Do you have any hidden talents?
I can blow bubbles out of my tongue.
Do you call it soda, pop, or cola?
Soda.
In Virginia, we call it soda.
Soda. People in New Hampshire call a bubbly soft drink a soda. There's no pop, it's just soda.
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 What's your craziest impulse buy? Mine was a restaurant.
A projector.
Who is the greatest superhero of all time?
My daughter.
If you were a professional wrestler, what would your entrance song be?
Country boys can't survive.
I got a shotgun, a rifle, and a four-wheel drive, and a country boy can survive.
So with the event, the freshwater event, because I know you have the saltwater, and when is that, by the way?
The saltwater?
Yeah, the saltwater event.
Oh, okay. Well, we're still discussing
Just
that.
roughly, like,
No,
is it-
it's usually the end of September. We
Okay.
always like to do it the last Saturday in September, but because of the last 2 years we've been fighting these hurricanes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Such a shame.
it's horrible. So we're like, man, but do we push it off to October? You know, later in October, like try to get out of the hurricane season, because this last year it really we lost. You know, we were looking at the numbers as far as the board goes, and I think we lost about $60,000 on it because we lost 7 boats or 8 boats that were going to be in it, but Helene, they were somebody's yard,
Right.
You know, way down the way, and then there was because we had to reschedule because the weekend of the tournament was the weekend of Helene.
Wow.
So we already pushed it a week, and then because of that, people who could do that weekend couldn't do that weekend the next weekend.
Right.
Just
throw a
scheduling
wrench and
issues.
everything.
Yeah. And then that weekend we were staring down the barrel of Milton, so it was just people were shy. People were wanting to worry about their stuff, and
Yeah.
to come out of it still raising like $80,000. I think we did pretty well.
Yeah, no doubt. So long story short, though, you got like basically a spring tournament,
Yep.
essentially, which is your freshwater. And you got a fall tournament, which date to be determined. But this one, we have the date, and it's March 22nd.
Correct.
Do you guys have teams registering already? Is there a deadline to register?
Okay, yeah, perfect. So you can register the day of.
Okay.
A lot of kids do. the only thing that I always encourage people to do is if you register before March 8th, then you're guaranteed a tournament shirt.
Okay.
Which is by Floridified. It's a $45 shirt. So like
There's most of your entry
there's
fee,
most of
right?
your entry fee right there. So I always say, hey, if you enter the tournament by March 8th, it asks you on the registration what's your kid's age and shirt size. So I know, so I can give it to our shirt guy. We don't want to make up, 100 shirts of different sizes and not get rid of half of them.
Right.
So that's why it's we'll have shirts for kids that register. We'll definitely make some up.
Right.
But that register the day of, but you're not guaranteed one.
So register in advance if you can.
Register in advance if you can. And we're still looking for sponsors. And what's real cool about this year is I'm just doing it straight across the board. It's a $300 sponsorship. Get your business logo on there. We promote you. We thank you on our Facebook page, and it's just straight across the board. We do have one still open. It's an $800 one, and it basically pays for the tent.
Okay.
That we have out there. So
well, can I stop you right there? Can we do something we'd never done on the Sarasota SpeaX podcast before? Can we all agree that we should sponsor the $300 sponsorship? We've never done it like that, but I think all the decision makers are here. Are we all on board with that? We can at least commit to the $300 sponsorship for us. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, this is something we try to do, regularly, like once a month if we can have a charity on or some, support a good cause. Sure. And it happened by accident. Like a lot of things, like this podcast in general really happened kind of by accident. We start to have these conversations and we learn, about some new causes or, we learn kind of the backstory on some causes and we want to get behind and do what we can do. So we'd be happy to sponsor
awesome.
The $300 sponsorship. We happy to share your logo and stuff, but more importantly, we want to use this opportunity to really get the message out there and why people should come to the event. So happy to do it. I think, is there anything else covering the event wise? Because I want to get to the backstory of
sure.
I kind of have a few small questions. I mean, you guys,
absolutely.
What you're doing, I've done a lot of stuff in nonprofits over the many years I've been here, right? And one thing I've noticed is that sometimes with the larger non-local nonprofits, it's very hard to keep the money here.
Yeah.
Which is very important, right? Because we have a lot of need here in our own backyard.
Absolutely, we do.
And Sarasota tends to be a place nationally where money's being taken out, but it's not necessarily coming back in.
Sarasota County is the most charitable county. I think I've heard things about that per capita, yeah. So absolutely, yeah. We help, it's pretty much, we focus on the Sun Coast. Mm-hmm. So we've helped definitely plenty of families get sick in Sarasota County. There's some families in Northport, Venice that we've helped right here in Sarasota, several. But we'll help families in St. Pete, Clearwater, Tampa area. So we just kind of say the Sun Coast. We've helped families in Fort Myers even, that are really going through a hard time. But pretty much it's right here on the Sun Coast.
So in terms of you getting corporate level support, do people know like what you're doing in terms of raising the money here and keeping it here? Do you have any like important corporate partners who's helped you early in the beginning?
Not really. One of the biggest struggles.
Well, I think Big Top is a good one.
Big Top. Yeah. Big Top Brewing Company. I guess you could. Beach Bazaar out on Siesta Key. They're big supporters of us. The general manager there is my board chairman now. Okay. So they're very big into it.
And they've gone through their own recent stuff.
And they've dealt with their own stuff. So Alpine Steakhouse, of course. So we do have some big ones, but our hardest, my biggest struggle is the media. I can't get Channel 7 to pick up anything. I have all kinds of feel-good stories and stuff like that. So I guess that's one of my biggest struggles.
That's a problem we can help you solve, I think.
I really appreciate it.
Hopefully we're kind of helping with what we're doing already, and that's why we do it, really.
When I was asked to come on, I was like, absolutely. Where do I sign up?
Yeah. Well, we're happy you're here. I mean, it's a feel-good thing for us, too, obviously. We didn't set out on that course, but we had a couple charities on, and it's like, hey, we should do this once a month.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I really appreciate it. And, that one story that I want to share, which is a really cool story, it didn't cost the foundation a dime, was this boy named Prince. He's 15 years old, and we'd helped the family a few times. Or he was going through leukemia, and it's a long process, like 2.5-year journey, right? And he was just really struggling. Right at the end, he was starting to really get depressed, and he told his mom, he said, if this thing's going to take me, I just want it to take me. I'm done with it. Like he was just really depressed, and Mom shared that with me. And I'm like, well, is there anything we can do? I mean, is there anything we can do as a foundation to help? She's like, I don't know what it would be. And I was like, well, what is he into? She said he's into basketball. I'm like, all right, well, who's his favorite team? She's like, the Atlanta Hawks. I'm like, I was hoping you'd say the Orlando Magic or something. Maybe I could make something happen in Atlanta.
Heat.
We're not in Atlanta,
Yeah.
I was like, all right. Well, it's like, well, who's his favorite player? And she said, it's Trae Young. I'm like, okay, yeah, of course it'd be an all-star,
Yeah,
so
easy to get a hold of him.
Yeah, I'll just call him up and see. So it's to make a long story short, it's like, all right, well, I'll see what I can do. Maybe I'll just get him a Trae Young jersey, try to boost his spirits up in basketball or something. I went to visit Sarasota meeting one day, and this gentleman saw my hat, and he walked over and said, I asked you about your hat. And his name's Pete Harvey with Visit Sarasota. And he's the sport director for Sarasota County. So he brings in like the sporting events to Sarasota County. Like he does the rowing and all that stuff. He had a daughter who battled childhood cancer.
Wow.
So this hat kind of stuck out to him. And I said, hey, I got a question for you. Kind of a random question. I don't know if you can help me with it. But I have this boy, his name's Prince, and he's really a big Atlanta Hawks fan. And I'm trying to get a hold of the Atlanta Hawks organization to see if they can do something for him. He's like, well, I do have a counterpart in Atlanta. I'll see what I can do.
Wow.
So he reached out to Atlanta. His counterpart said, I don't know anybody, but I know somebody who knows somebody. I'll get back to you. It wasn't about 2 weeks later, I get an email saying, can you send us an ask, basically? Can you put us together an ask? So I put together an ask and sent it to that email address. And a week later, I got an email with a video from Trae Young saying, hey, Prince, I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. I'm getting ready to go up to New York for a game. But I wanted to let you know that we're playing the Orlando Magic in February, and I want you to come down to the game so I can meet you. So I got a really cool video of it. And then the parents, the mom, when they went to the game in February, sent me pictures of Prince with him at the game, giving him a big hug. And the more awesome news is on the way to the game, the doctor called and said, Prince, I'm so excited that you're going to the game, but I also have some great news for you. You're cancer-free.
Holy smokes.
So is that not a feel-good story?
That's a great story.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I still am proud of that one, and that didn't cost the foundation a dime. It just cost us some time, So I sent the story to ABC7. I sent it to some local news, and nobody ever picked it up.
Hey, we're happy too. Wow, that is wild. I mean, and at 15, as a regular boy, not going through cancer, right? We were all 15. We're all men here. We were all 15 once, and that is a very weird time to be a boy, a young man, and then to be going through that on top of it. So. That's incredible, and it didn't cost you anything, and it was really just, like, hey, we don't know what we can do, but we're not gonna do nothing. We're gonna do something. Whether it's a jersey, whether it's a video, whether it's being at the game, and you were able to accomplish all of those things. So
just making the connections. That's what it's all goes down to, and that's when you can get more people involved and you get the media involved a little bit. More things can happen.
Yeah. What's the saying? You turn your mess into your message, right? And I see you as an example of that, right? You've gone through, sorry to say, this mess with Hannah, and it was probably very hard, and you've turned that into your message now. Yeah. And I want to get to the story of Hannah, because what you were telling me before the show is pretty awesome in and of itself. Because not just once, but twice, and you've been through it in just a few short years, and now 5 years cancer-free. So I would ask you the question of why you started the organization, but we know why. We know why. Let's just tell the listeners, what drove you to, take this action of starting the organization and, making a difference in other children's lives, rather than just, focusing on what was right in front of you with your own family. Yeah, no, it's just really, like I said, the hospital stay with the ICU floor and the little girl, and trying to make it, an impact on families. And when you help one family and you see the relief that just you took off their shoulders, it's so rewarding. You want to do it again. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's just something, and it's like, it's a way that I know that maybe I cope with my daughter's journey a little bit, is it's a way to fix it again. So yeah, I mean, these kids and these families, like, I've never seen
anybody stronger. And I was talking to a dad a few nights ago who's a childhood cancer dad, and we're just sharing stories, going back and forth. And I was like, it's always funny how people say, "You're so strong." Well, you're strong when you
don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. You never. You didn't choose this, so you really start learning who you are as a person and what you can do to give back.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the silver lining, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's if there is one. Yeah,
right. If there is one,
make lemonade out. Life gives you lemon, make lemonade kind of thing. But
so Hannah was diagnosed with the neuroblastoma.
She was at the age of 2. She had like a low grade fever for a couple weeks. We kept taking her back and forth to the pediatrician. They kept saying it's viral. Let's just circle back and make sure plenty of fluids, that kind of stuff. Just what a normal kid's sickness, right?
Right.
Well, she wasn't getting any better, and we kept taking her back. We finally were told when she started getting pale and her belly was starting to protrude a little bit, our pediatrician said, if I were you and she was my niece, I'd put her in the car and take her to All Children's right now. So we did. My wife actually took her because we have 2 other boys, so I had to get them from school. I was actually helping a friend of mine remodel a house, so I called her. I was like, "You keep me posted. Whatever you need." I left my boys with my buddy's wife, helping him remodel. She calls me on the phone, and she's crying, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "Babe, they did some testing and they found a mass." I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean mass? Like, cancer? And she's like, I don't know. I'll know more, tomorrow. When I'm like, no, I'm coming up there, And she's like, no, you take the boys, take them home, and let's not tell the boys anything until we truly know what's going on. So that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is go pick up my boys and tell my friend's wife that kind of what was going on, but not enough because I didn't want to scare the boys. And then to take them home and still be like dealing with it myself.
Somewhat normal.
Yeah, and try to keep life normal for them. Next day we went up to the hospital. Doctor comes in
with your boys, or
with
they
the
were
boys.
in school.
Yep, with the boys. They had to do a biopsy on her mass that they found. It was on her lower abdomen area, and a couple days of that, waiting for that to come back, and we went up there. The boys and I were up there. Ginger's mom flew in from Illinois on a red eye. We're all sitting there in the hospital.
Ginger's your wife?
Ginger's my wife, yes. Sitting there in the hospital, Dr. Moore comes in, and it's one of those things like I can close my eyes and see it to this day. He sits down. We ask if the boys need us to leave, and he said, I think they probably do. So we already knew, okay, well, now it's going to be bad news,
Yeah.
So my mother-in-law took the boys out. We sit down. He's like, it's exactly what we thought it is. It is cancer, and he's like, it's neuroblastoma, to be exact. And he's like, when you talk about cancers, we stage cancers. He's like, and if I have to stage this one, I'm going to have to stage it as stage 4, high risk.
Which stage 5 would be like the highest, right?
4 is the highest.
4 is the highest.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he said it's not just in her lower abdomen; it's in her bones, and it was just like everything he said. It just shrunk me a little further and further and further. The only thing that he gave me hope with was he said, the fortunate thing about neuroblastoma is it's a cancer that we know really well. We have a treatment protocol for it. So long as she can survive the treatment, she can beat it. It's beatable. But she's got about a 40% chance. Oh, so we held on to that hope. Like if anybody can do this, our baby girl is going to do this. And we try to go at it at the positive attitude. But that night we got home, we told the boys, but we kind of just gave them limited information. Like she does have cancer, she's going to be in the hospital for a while.
How old were your boys at this time?
My oldest was 8. My middle child was 5.
Wow.
So it's a rough age for them,
Yeah.
And I'll never forget people were awesome at that time. You know what? People helped us. They started a meal train for us. Friends and family started meal trains for us. So when I got home from the hospital with the boys, like we had food at home, so I didn't have to worry about making dinner. But that first night we got home, man, we sit down at the dinner table and we're eating, and my oldest, Hayden, he said, "Hey, Dad," and like you could hear a pin drop, and I looked up and he was like, "Is Hannah going to die?" I was like, "Oh man, this is a gut punch, bud." I just like, you know what? And I tell this to families nowadays. I say, if you're having a hard time talking to your kids about it, especially the other kids, the siblings, what I said seemed to work with my kids, and it was, you know what? The doctors and your mom and I are doing everything we can to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And and they accepted that. So.
Well, at that age, you're their superheroes, right?
Yeah, and you can't see it. Like, it's one of those.
So
things
you got to be strong, so they can be strong.
You can't let them see them break down. I'd go in the bathroom and do that. I'd shut the door, and that's where I'd go lose it because, I'm a softie a lot of times, and it's so hard. The only time I ever really messed up was Ginger called and said it's not good. During her treatment, she spiked 104 fever. And this was right after surgery. And I was like, "What do you mean it's not good?" She's like, "I don't know if you need to come up here or what. I'm waiting for the doctor to tell me if you need to come up here." They're rushing her back for emergency surgery. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And her mom was actually at our house. So her mom's like, "I'm going up there." And I'm like, "That's fine. You go. I'll stay with the boys." And I got a phone and I lost it. And I lost it right in front of the boys, and I shouldn't have done that. And that's really the reason why her mom went up there, is because I was like, I scared them, and I'm not going to leave them with you.
Yeah.
So, it's a rough journey. It is for every family, and that's why it makes it so nice about running a foundation now and helping these other families, is because we share our story with them, and our story is so similar to theirs. And it's like, you give each other big hugs, like, "Hey, I'm here for you. Like, we've been through it," and they're happy that we're there for them. So it's just been it's been very rewarding.
Well, so kind of to fast forward, I mean, the Hannah story.
Sure.
I understand now she overcame the neuroblastoma.
Yep.
And then there was another instance.
Yeah, and I can, like I said, I can stay here for 5 days and tell about our story. But yeah, so she did get to where she achieved no evidence of disease. And that's what they call it with neuroblastoma, because once you hit no evidence of disease, you're not really a survivor until 5 years after, because there's a chance in that 5 years that it comes back, and it's a good chance, like 50-60% chance, like a flip of a coin. But while we're about a year into her no evidence of disease or remission for neuroblastoma, my wife realized her pupils were different. She thought, "Hey, what do you think?" And it's like, it's probably all the medicine she's got. I mean, gosh, they've poisoned her. She's had chemo and radiation. I mean, odds are some stuff's not going to be right.
Right.
She's like, "Yeah, I still think I'm going to call the doctor." I was like, "Yeah, no, I totally agree. Call the doctor." So they took her in. They said the same thing. Probably nothing. It's probably everything she's been through. Scan come back, and they found that she had a brain tumor. And they thought she had relapsed with neuroblastoma. Which, if you relapse with neuroblastoma, your odds of surviving, it's like 20%. It's not it's not news you want to hear.
Right.
Ended up having to wait for 4 or 5 days, got in for brain surgery, did brain surgery. The doctor said it'd take about 3 hours. He had it done in about 45 minutes, called us back, which kind of bothered us a little bit. He said, he's like, "It's the craziest thing. I would have swore this was neuroblastoma, but we put a wet test on it, and it's not neuroblastoma. So it's going to take some time for us to figure out what it is." They had to send it around to multiple children's hospitals throughout the country, and ended up in one in Texas. And they said it's histiocytosis, which is so rare in children. They don't hardly ever see it in children. In fact, they've never seen it in the brain before. They told us we had like a 1 in 245,000 chance that our daughter would have ever got something like this. And I was like, we can't get lucky enough to win the lottery, but this is our luck. Wow. So they're like, "We don't really know how to handle this. This is new territory for us. So we're going to try a few things and talk about a few things, and we'll get back to you." So all this whole time, our daughter's got this cancer now that we don't even know anything about. But they come back and said, "Okay, we think what we're going to do is going to take the medicine that we give adults for histiocytosis, and we're going to scale it back to her weight and just see if that works." So they started a medical book on our daughter.
Wow.
for kids. If this works for her, it could work for other kids. And then, so it worked. You know, we're 5 years now it's worked. She's not relapsed on that yet at all. And I was told by one of our doctors, or a doctor, I think some kid in the Philippines ended up having the same thing. And I don't know if they copied off what they did, but yeah, she wrote a medical chart on that one.
So, I mean, it has a happy ending, basically.
Yeah.
She's been 5 years cancer-free.
5 years cancer-free.
I'm sure she's fishing.
She does, and she's really involved in our charity. Like, she loves going with me to the hospital. Like, one of the things we try to do as well is we don't just help the family financially. We always bring the kids something. We always ask Mom and Dad, what are the child into? What's your son into? What's your daughter into? They tell us, and we go to the Walmart and buy a few toys or whatever they're into, and we take it to them. And we also buy the siblings toys. We like to include them as well. And she loves to be the one to take them the toys. So she goes up there with us. She has the best attitude towards it. She does a lemonade stand, her own lemonade stand.
She's 9 now?
She's 9, yeah. Wow. And she's 100% loves everything about the foundation, wants to help everywhere she can. She does her own lemonade stand. Last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, she did one, raised $1,400.
Wow.
So
just tell her to put like, like small batch lemonade or something, and then she could charge double the price. You know, it could be like just add one word, and it could be like a vanity price.
Yeah. Well, they have. It was funny. So Scooter of the Beach, he promotes the heck out of Hannah all the time, and casting for the kids. And he had we did at the farmers market out in Siesta Key, and he has his rum, a couple down, and dads were buying lemonade. He's like, man, too bad this isn't like hard lemonade. And I was like, well, Scooter's got some rum right over there. Probably put a little bit in there.
She should change it if she doesn't already do this. Tip only.
It is. We do.
That's the way to do it.
That's why she raised. Yeah, she puts donations at will.
I love it.
Yeah.
So the fishing, so casting for kids, the fishing, where did that come from? That was a passion of yours? It was a good,
absolutely.
What do you think?
I love to fish, right?
Yeah.
I'm part of the Waves Boat Club, so I go out fishing as much as I can when I can. I'm not near as good as some of these guys that come fish our tournament.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's a passion. And the cool thing about fishing is it's a chance to get away from the everyday life, right? It's to kind of get a break. So it's that with cancer too, and the families. We started this last year. We had a childhood cancer division, and it was only for cancer families. We got all these charter captains to donate their time to take these kids out who've been through cancer treatments, and they just had the best time. We had a big trophy. Team Landon won it this year, and it's called the Real Heroes Division. So they hold a big trophy, and they get a little small check, and they just loved it. They loved everything about it.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Are you guys gonna do that again?
We're wanting to grow that bigger. Yeah. No, I want more kids and more. It's the charter captains are the hard part.
Yeah.
I had 5, so I got 5 kids. Getting the kids isn't hard. Mm-hmm. If you call any childhood cancer family, we've helped hundreds and hundreds of families. I can call any of them and say, you want to come fishing?
They'd love to.
The charter is going to take you out fishing just for the day, for fun.
What I'm curious about is how you went from obviously dealing with your own family crisis, not once but twice, to deciding I'm going to start this foundation, I'm going to start a nonprofit. Like, what were the logistics of doing that? A lot of people who watch this podcast, they see people on here like you who've done things that maybe they didn't think was easy or possible in our neck of the woods.
Sure.
So maybe some advice to people who are passionate about a cause after maybe they've gone through a situation.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, again, making lemonade out of lemons, it's nothing's impossible. You just got to want to do it. You got to want to do it. You got to roll up your sleeves and do it. And you got to talk to a lot of people. I got a lot of good advice from a lot of good people. Surround yourself with that and see where it goes. Like you said, Matt Rabin at Alpine, he's a big into fishing too. So he knew some people. He made some phone calls, and it's been rewarding. And to be able to give back, from what we've been through is just rewarding.
Yeah. I think that everybody that was a part of that in the beginning and everybody that inspired you deserves, a certain level of credit, but so do you, obviously, for taking that inspired action. I mean, that's what Felipe is basically saying is many people go through this, not many people, or I shouldn't say many people, but people will go through this and not many people will respond in the way that you did, and rightly so. I can understand why somebody wouldn't.
Just like my wife, she doesn't, if she did this every day, she would go crazy because it's a constant reminder of what we went through.
Mm-hmm.
So some people have a hard time with that, but others, so many families that we've helped now come out and support it, volunteer at it. 3 of our volunteers were families we helped last year. So it's everybody coming together and wanting to be a part of what we're doing and growing our community.
Before we shift gears, do you want to talk about Washington, D.C., where you just kind of came back from and put a spotlight on that?
Yeah, so another board member and I, Eric Smith, he's my cousin, and kind of a backstory about that is, and this is something too, kind of brings this whole thing full circle, is when we were 6 years old, his brother was diagnosed with medulloblastoma, which is a cancer. And unfortunately, he didn't make it. So at 6 years old, I buried my cousin, and he buried his brother. So we've kind of had to deal with this our whole lives, and then my daughter getting cancer. So he joined our board, and he's very passionate about it, so he's very advocate about it. And we were invited out by the American Cancer Society. They follow us on Facebook and all my posts and stuff, and they said, hey, we think you'd be great to come out to D.C. to speak to Congress about the importance of passing a couple of these legislation bills. And I'm like, yeah, let me look into it and I'll let you know. I got with the board. They said 100%, let's do it. So we flew out to D.C. on the 25th. We had some meetings on the 26th. We had a conference on the 27th, and then we went to Capitol Hill on the 28th. It's all about Give Kids a Chance Act, right? So there's a piece of legislation out there right now that was already passed the House and Senate. It was just waiting to be approved in the budget, which got cut in December. New administration coming in, so they wanted to say, no, we don't want your budget, we want our budget, which is going to be on March 14th. So Give Kids a Chance Act removes a lot of red tape for families. So like a family who's going through like a CAR-T treatment for ALL, they sometimes have to wait 2, 3, even 4 weeks to get the treatment because they have to go through all these hoops and jump all these red tapes, and like get approved for this and get approved for that. And no, this removes that red tape. So if a doctor says that's what they need, that's what they get.
And essentially that is because sometimes these kids don't have 3-4 weeks to wait if it's an aggressive cancer.
Correct. That's just one of the things the bill offers. Another thing is there's a voucher program. I don't know if you're familiar with the voucher program in the medicine world, but it basically is this. If you're a small drug company, right, this bill will say, we want you to focus on childhood cancer. We want you to focus on rare diseases, even for big pharma, like even for Pfizer and stuff. We want you to focus on big diseases. And if you do, we'll give you a voucher. And that voucher expedites you for your next drug that you want to get moved to the front of the line. So it takes like 10 months for a drug to get approved by the FDA. This lowers it down to like 5 or 6 months. So everybody wants that voucher. There was a drug company that under this bill developed a drug for neuroblastoma, and he's a small drug company, but because it was good, FDA gave him a voucher. He sold that voucher for $350 million.
Whoa! Which
gave him more money to start focusing on more rare diseases. So that's how much money those vouchers are worth, and that's how this bill incentivizes drug companies to focus on rare diseases. So that's huge in this bill. And the last part of the bill is the Medicaid. So like if a kid needs a flight to Philadelphia for treatment, it helps provide for that. There's so much expense that goes on in a childhood cancer journey. We know it as we see it every day with the families. But what people don't understand is Medicaid isn't, in this situation, it's not just for lower income people. You can be wealthy and still need it because even after insurance, my wife and I have phenomenal insurance. But if you have a child with cancer who ends up surviving, the total out cost for a patient is like $900,000. I don't know too many middle class families can afford that, or even upper middle class families that can afford that. So this helps provide for them to get to where they need to go across state lines for treatments for specialists, and to be able to afford to do that. So there's a lot of really good things in this bill. And I really feel like we had a great meeting with Greg Stubbe's office, Vern Buchanan's office, Rick Scott. We actually met with Eric, and I got to meet directly with Greg Stubbe.
Wow.
And talk to him about it. And he's going to jump on the bill as a co-sponsor. So the more co-sponsors we can get on this bill, the more likelihood it's going to get to the president's desk, and he's going to sign it.
Love it.
So it's huge. And I tell people on my podcast, call your representatives. Tell them you want them to co-sponsor this bill, because that's how important it is. And if it doesn't get done, it could put us back another year or two.
Well, and that brings up a good point, and kind of how we want to put a wrap on this. Really, essentially, how can those listening out in the audience help you and continue to, whether it's the bill and supporting the event, or your needs for sponsors, anything we didn't cover on how the audience can help you and get involved with what you got going on.
Yeah, honestly, check us out on our website. It's www.castingforthekids.org, and just go on there and check it out. You'll see everything we're doing. Absolutely, we need donations. I mean, that's how we run.
Yeah.
We run on donations. So we have sponsors, corporate sponsors. We need big sponsors. Babes Plumbing, shout out to them, because they are our big tournament sponsor at the $10,000 mark every year. So we love Babes Plumbing. Riley Roofing, roofing company. He does. He's our kid sponsor. He has been the last couple of years. We always take sponsors. The kids tournament, like I said, is $300 sponsorship for any corporation that wants to be. We put your logo on a big banner. We give you a thank you on social media, and we try to promote all of our sponsors. And the beautiful thing too is a lot of our families have used some of our sponsors as for whatever they need. Like for example, Matt at Alpine, he called me last year and said, "Hey, who was our presenting sponsor again for the tournament?" I go, "Babes Plumbing." He's like, "Perfect. That's who I'm calling. I need some plumbing work down at the restaurant." So a lot of, and so it does pay back to be a sponsor, Not only that, but it's a good cause.
It's a good cause, right? Whether it pays back or not, it's
absolutely.
Worth
You're
it.
still doing something good in the community, and it's come on out too, like the event's for everybody. Like the fishing tournament's for the fishing tournament, but we have, the kids tournament, it's open for everybody. You can come out to the event and just enjoy the event. Do some silent auction items, get some food, listen to the band. Big Top will have their drinks there, of course.
If you have a kid, then you get to fish with your
and
kid.
If you have a kid, you take your
maybe
kid
not.
fishing.
You don't get to measure your fish. You got to measure the kid's fish, but you get to take your kid fishing.
Whatever happens, happens.
And listen, I grew up a good friend of mine, Johnny Walker. Take a kid fishing, and someday they might take you, right? So you take them fishing, you get them in the tournament. Maybe they get a boat down the road, and they take you fishing when you're old, and can't do it yourself. So
who's the guy who said that? The newscaster?
Johnny Walker.
Yeah, I've heard that before. That's
Johnny
cool.
Walker. He's retired now, but good guy. Took a lot of kids fishing, that's for sure.
That's cool.
Well, listen, not to make light of a topic that can be heavy, but we love what you're doing, and you're doing some great things, and we want to kind of to shift gears here to some Sarasota-based questions. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Trey Martell with Strong Roofing.
It's roundabout time.
I'm looking at it right now. I see what you're saying.
Trey Martell, Dominator Law. Both want to know, what are your feelings on roundabouts? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Can you navigate them?
Hey, that's new.
Well, honestly, if you know how to use them,
they're great, right?
They're great, but some of our other people in the population don't also know how to use them.
It's a old people problem?
I don't know. I'm not saying that.
Might be the most common answer we get is as long as you know how to use them.
As long as you know how to use them.
You ever tow a boat around one of them?
I have, yeah.
Challenging or no?
Nah, it's not too bad.
Not too bad.
Stay between the mustard and the mayonnaise, and you're good.
Right.
The mustard and the mayonnaise, the yellow and the white, in case you didn't know.
I never heard that before either. We're just coming up with them today.
Crushing it.
I got kind of an offshoot of this question. You've been boating on these waters a long time. Yeah. Obviously, you run this great nonprofit that does these great tournaments. We asked this question for a specific reason. It's really a proxy for asking about growth and change in Sarasota, right? All the years you've been here, have you noticed the difference in the boat traffic?
Yeah, it's increased.
And the types of people on boats and the boat etiquette, maybe?
Correct, yes. Boat etiquette, big time. What's really crazy is the whole landscape of the bay has changed since the hurricane. So there's new channels out there.
Open Midnight Pass.
Yeah, there's new channels out there. Like, if you have not been on the water since the hurricane, you better go out there and take it slow, because some places that were 14 feet deep now are only 2 feet deep. You'll belly it up. So I did that when I went back out there the first time. I just kind of cruised around and checked it all out, because there was so much.
Have you been through Midnight Pass yet?
I have. I
It's
did.
nice, right?
I did make that trip through there.
They say it might not be open much longer unless they dredge, huh?
It's flowing pretty good. In the center, I think it was 14 feet deep, but it is. It's kind of building a barrier.
The shoal on the
yeah. They really need to just try to keep it open at this point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why are you whispering?
I think you're right, and I think we're all on board with that. But with that being said, I'll pass it over to Felipe for
okay.
for the signature question.
Yeah, we always end on the same question.
Sure.
You've been on Sarasota SpeaX. Thanks for being here, by the way. We enjoyed it, and thanks for doing what you do with your great cause. So you've seen what we do here. Who do you know, who we may not know, who Sarasota needs to know? Who can we invite on Sarasota SpeaX?
Oh man, I got plenty of people, but I mean, you'd always, I'd always throw out Matt Rabin at Alpine Steakhouse.
He's gotten some shout outs on this one for sure. Huh?
He's a great guy, and
we love restaurants when they bring food.
Yeah,
so
he definitely would do that.
Bring that steak sandwich over here.
Yeah, no, but there's a new church out there too. My friend Pastor Steve, he's a big supporter of what we're doing too. New community church, so he'd be somebody too. It's good. When Hannah was sick, he texted me the night before. He's like, "Man, I heard you got to go up for surgery. When's her surgery?" And I was like, "It's tomorrow. We have to be there like 6 a.m. And I didn't expect it, but he showed up and he sat with us. So yeah, just a lot of good people.
Yeah.
The steakhouse is an interesting one, especially because that's something that's been well known elsewhere, but I feel like a lot of people in town don't know about it because it was on TV.
The Food Network, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
No, he's a staple in Sarasota for sure. It was his. I think it was his grandpa's.
It's been there as long as I've been alive.
Yeah, grandpa's and then dad's, and then
but,
he's
if you're new to town, you might just drive by it and not think
not know what it is. Except
right.
when you see the big smoker out there smoking, and
that's something that's got to change.
Good.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank
absolutely.
you. If we can do some more for you down the road, we'd love to help you out. And if you're watching this March 22nd, this will be out before then. So if you're watching this March 22nd and you have kids, get them signed up. Get them signed up early. They may not see this as early, but we'll post the link as well in the stories, and we'll promote it how we can. And I'll try to get my kids out there and fish it as well. So
sounds good.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Hey, great to meet you. Thanks for what you do.